You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
The Oilers are still making moves. Jeff Jackson never sleeps. We're not supposed to be doing a show right now. Let's get into it with the lead. Welcome into a special edition of Oilers Nation Everyday, coming to you live from the Sports Closet studio. Special edition brought to you by Sherwood Ford the Giant. We weren't supposed to be at work today. This was a company-wide day off. It's turned into a not company-wide day off because just as I wake up from a nice little Friday afternoon nap, I see Elliot Friedman report that the Oilers have traded Ryan McLeod to the Buffalo Sabres. To help me break this all down, there are only two men I trust. One of them is Liam Horrobin. He joins me from a nice patio. Liam, where are you?
I'm in Summerland, BC. Jeff Jackson mustn't have been in that company email thread, Tyler. This is not good. This is not good, but crazy trade.
Okay, so let's go through our thoughts here, and I'm producing this whole thing myself. I'm setting up my studio myself. My PA took the day off. It's a whole mess. Anyways, first I see Ryan McLeod's been traded to Buffalo, and I wasn't sleeping. I had just gotten off the phone with our friend Lowtide doing a hit there, and we were talking about how Evander Kane going to LTIR is the very likely scenario and solution to the Oilers' salary cap problems. I see the McLeod trade pop up, and I think, okay, they traded Ryan McLeod. I'm going, they probably got a second, but in all likelihood, a third-round pick back for him. We'll talk about what's coming back in a second because it's significant. But when you first saw it, were you thinking cap dump for a pick as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone who saw that initially just thought, hey, probably a third, fourth round pick here. Maybe you get like a B-level prospect. Honestly, someone in relation to probably like a Tyler Tullio level that they already had in the organization, who's, of course, part of this deal as well. But Ryan McLeod, I think ups and downs, but did show he could play with some skill. So maybe a second round pick in the most, and then obviously the rest of the news came.
Yeah, the rest of the news does come. Elliot Friedman follows it up with another report that Ryan McLeod, again, going to Buffalo, but part of the return, or the return, I should say, is Matthew Savoie. And Liam, this is give me your first reaction to that, because honestly, the first time I saw it was Stephen Ellis texted me and said, holy shit, if Matthew Savoie is the return. And this is not a throw-in prospect. This is not insignificant. This guy went 9th overall 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same reaction as Stephen Ellis. Just, holy shit, Matthew Savoie, only days after releasing his older brother, Connor Savoie. Pretty ruthless the NHL can be at times, but Matthew Savoie, obviously from Edmonton, from St. Albert, played for the Crusaders a little bit during the COVID year as well, so got to see him live, and just like his work ethic is unbelievable. One of the best prospects to come out of Western Canada. It was kind of the start of the trend, to be honest. Him and Bedard were kind of the best two players in this region for a long time. Obviously, Bedard is what he's been, but Matthew Savoie is still a heck of a player, and arguably should not have played junior hockey last year. Went on to play for the Moose Jaw Warriors, of course, who went to the Memorial Cup in a fantastic season. Finished the year in Rochester with Buffalo's affiliate team. And this kid can play. He's got wheels. He can absolutely rip the puck. And I mean, for Jeff Jackson, my oh my, for a guy that doesn't want the job, he's sure making a good case that he should be the best candidate for the job. Well, quite frankly, the others might not need a GM anymore if Jeff Jackson just wants to keep running the show with the staff he's got going, because Matthew Savoie can step into the NHL and play today, and it's clear that the Oilers' motive is we want to score 9 goals and don't care if the other team scores 8 goals. Like, we're going to win either way.
BM is in the chat. He says Stephen Ellis will have an article at Oilers Nation soon to talk about how good Savoie is. I mentioned there's only 2 men I trust to break down this trade. It is you, and it is Stephen Ellis. He's also going to pop on the show in about 5-10 minutes here and give us a quick little breakdown of that. But, I mean, you just go look, and before we get to Ellis and we get a scouting report on this guy, his numbers last year were jaw-dropping. He finished the season in the WHL in 23 games. He had 19 goals and 28 assists. He was over 2 points per game, almost a goal per game followed it up in the WHL playoffs with 10 goals and 14 assists in 19 games. He did get into 6 American Hockey League games because they did the sort of funky thing where they kept him out long enough and then they were able to put him on a conditioning loan or whatever, I think was the loophole they used. And when he went down to the American League, again, at that point, he would have been 19 years old. As a 19-year-old in the AHL, he had 5 points in 6 games. Like, I have a similar feeling to how I felt after the first day of free agency, but without the confusion, because that was like, okay, Jeff Jackson just did a ton of really good stuff, but I'm confused about how he's going to make it work. Right now, I'm just going, why did Buffalo do this? How did Jeff Jackson pull this off? I don't see any part of downside to this. They're adding, and Lance asked in the chat, is he our best prospect now? He's not a prospect now. He's playing the Oilers next season.
He's probably going to be better than Holloway. I mean, he's a better prospect than Holloway was coming into his NHL draft year. Like, just again, like I was around the Savoies for quite a bit, obviously with junior hockey. Like, Matthew Savoie was very close to getting exceptional status into the WHL. A few things happened that prevented it, but he was super close to being the first Western Canadian player to get that. And the WHL went around and went through some loopholes so he could play him a certain amount of games more than many other 15-year-olds had played in the WHL at that point. And he's an exceptional player and, easily the best prospect the Oilers have. I'm very curious to see where he kind of slots in. I would assume he goes straight to Bakersfield to start, but don't be surprised if this guy's up with the Oilers by Christmas, late January, the latest. He'll probably play some playoff games with the way everything is expected to go for him. And I'm thinking back to a comment Jeff Jackson made that was at the draft when he traded up. It was either Jackson or Rick Pracey. Just the cupboards were bare in Edmonton for prospects, and I get it. Like, we're a team that's trying to win the Stanley Cup and came very close to doing it this year, but like, you do need those guys to come through for you at certain points in the year when in the playoffs. Like, we had Holloway and Broberg come through on rookie deals, and maybe Savoie can be that next guy that comes through. And then you have Sam O'Reilly coming after. Like, what Jackson has been able to do and just his whole staff of just the pure aggression and the mindset of, you have to be in the mindset of Connor McDavid has 2 years left on his contract. Leon Draisaitl has 1 year left. We all expect them to sign, but hypothetically they don't. You have 2 years to try and win a Stanley Cup here. And you have to prove to Connor McDavid that the time is now. And maybe Matthew Savoie doesn't seem like that kind of player when you put a 19-year-old player in comparison to a 23, 24-year-old, whatever Ryan McLeod is. But he will be better than what Ryan McLeod will ever be in the NHL. And Ryan McLeod is a good player, but he needed to play in a different role, and the others just didn't have that for him anymore.
You have a beautiful backdrop once again. Liam joining us on vacation, which I love. Do you want to stick around, or do you want me to let you go when I get to Steven?
I'll stick around for Steven, and actually, you know what? You can let me go, and then you can have your moment with Steven, because I just don't really know what else to say about it. I think this is an incredible deal for the Oilers. Again, absolutely savage that they just let Connor Savoie go like 3 days ago, and now here we are with Matthew Savoie. It's Jeff Jackson. I wrote an article today just about like whoever this next GM is has got the biggest shoes to fill, and it's so nice being an Oilers fan and knowing that we're not just watching other teams do this anymore. We're only a year removed from watching them trade Yamamoto and Klim Kostin for nothing. And now here we are with Ryan McLeod, who a lot of fans would have been probably happy to just get rid of him for future considerations, getting a 9th overall pick from 2 years ago, who was one of the best Western Canadian players from Edmonton. And it's incredible what he's able to do. St. Albert, yes, my apologies.
Yeah, come on, Liam. You got to get that right. All right, Liam, you enjoy the rest of your vacation. Are you back on Monday?
No, I'm back Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't read my texts or emails. So you enjoy the rest of your trip. We'll see you next week, buddy.
Goodbye, everybody.
There goes Liam away into the night, and we trade him. The trade is 1-for-1. Liam for Mr. Stephen Ellis. Stephen Ellis, welcome into the show. Were you as stunned as I was to see that return come down?
So I was getting ready to go look at like an apartment to rent, but that has now completely changed because I just don't understand this deal in the slightest. Edmonton just got one of the best prospects in hockey here and traded a guy who is not one of the best prospects. And I don't get it.
and again, like everything about this, the local boy angle, he just finished ripping apart the WHL. Like, so what is, I'll start with this. What is Matt Savoie? You're going to write a piece for us at Oilers Nation. You're really going to get into the weeds of this thing, but what is his upside? What is his ceiling?
So my guess here, and I've spent a lot of time watching the Buffalo Sabres prospects. I was just actually at their development camp yesterday, and kind of one of the topics was, does Buffalo just have too many good young forward prospects? And they went out there and just got Consolanius, who just dominated in the scrimmage I watched. So it was kind of a matter of time until they traded one of those guys. But Savoie was not the guy I expected. This is a player that, heading into the 2021-2022 season, we were talking about as probably the best chance of someone taking over as the top prospect from Shane Wright at the time. And obviously, Juraj Slafkovsky went out first overall. But Savoie fallen to 9th overall as the oldest player, oldest first-year eligible player in the draft. He was a January 1st kid. The big thing for him was the size. He was only 5'9", and he did get pushed around a little bit, but he would kill you with skill. McLeod, one of the things he was known for was the speed. Well, I'd say Savoie is as quick, if not quicker. But then he's got the skill. He's not actually afraid to be a bit physical, a bit feisty out there. Outstanding puck handling, great shots. I think the big thing for him is, he can be caught trying to do too much of the puck sometimes, or he'll just throw the puck away. His hockey sense does get questioned, but from a pure talent perspective, like we're talking about a top 10 prospect in the NHL.
Do you think he can play games for the Edmonton Oilers next season, or does he need a year in Bakersfield?
I think there's no real push because, obviously the Oilers, we expect them to be a cup contender again next year. So sending him there, getting him to play against older, tougher competition, because he has been kind of just beating on the WHL goalies for a few years now. But he was also really good in Rochester last year. Like, he could be one of those guys like Logan Stankoven this year where, okay, we know you've got the talent. Go play in the AHL. Go see what you could do. But we're probably going to call you up near the end of the year and get that scoring push, maybe around trade deadline time, see what you could do there. But I think he's capable of playing in the NHL next year. I don't think he should play in the NHL next year because he's a center, but he's also got to play on the wing. It's like you don't want him going out there and being a third line center right away. Maybe make him a wing. Maybe see what happened. But I want to see him just learn to play against stronger competition, both from a skill perspective, but a physical perspective.
Should Oilers fans feel any type of way about giving up Tyler Tullio in this deal, or is this just no matter what, a slam dunk, home run, whatever analogy you want to use, kind of win?
I basically, from the get-go, I watched Tyler Tullio play since, the GTHL days and his dad, being involved in the Oshawa Generals. I totally forgot he was playing pro hockey at this point, to be honest. That's how I felt about him.
All right. Fair enough. So Matt Savoie, could slide into the Oilers lineup at some point next season. You talked about how he could be a Logan Stankoven type. This is generally like a pretty lazy question to ask a prospect analyst such as yourself, but I'll ask it anyways. NHL comparable for Matt Savoie. What's the style here of this player?
I remember kind of the combination that was getting mixed around when he was in his draft year was kind of like a Matt Duchene meets Kevin Fiala style player, like a guy who can move. He's got good hands. I think the hockey sense type of thing, kind of like the Matt Duchene style thing there, maybe not the best in the world, but I just think from having the puck on a stick, he makes magic happen. And I thought he was just fine at the Memorial Cup as his Moose Jaw team just kind of was just okay. But watching him in the playoffs, this dude was just, it looked like he was playing on easy mode the whole time. So that's kind of what he does. He does that against junior guys. It's the question of, can he do it against men, which is why the size thing is definitely a concern for players moving up to the NHL.
Steven, appreciate your time, man. Look forward to your piece coming up at Oilers Nation, and people can keep it locked on OilersNation.com to read it. Thanks, man.
It should be up pretty soon.
There you go. Steven Ellis from Daily Faceoff hopping on the emergency stream to give us a little bit of prospect insight into Matt Savoie, the return in the Ryan McLeod deal. But after hearing what Steven had to say, I think it's more Ryan McLeod was just the cost of getting the chance to bring in Matt Savoie. It's honestly stunning. I know Original Pozar just tweeted me and said, can someone check in on Evan Bouchard? His two best buddies on the team were Ryan McLeod and Warren Fogle. There was a little run there where the quartet was Fogle, McLeod, Yamamoto, always hanging out with Evan Bouchard. That was their crew. So let's get into a couple of your comments over in the Greta Bar YouTube chat. Shout out to our friends over at Greta. Oily Accountant, does this clear up cap space? Yes. If Matt Savoie is going to start the year in Bakersfield, this thing clears up about $2.1 million, even if he starts. And this is part of what I absolutely love about this trade here. It's the fact that Matt Savoie has 3 more years left on his entry-level contract. Like, that has the chance to be a massive win. This is a guy who, I mean, you just listen to Steven call him one of the best prospects in hockey. This is a guy who could score you 60 to 70 points on his ELC years, and he's got 3 of them left. This is it's a mind-blowingly good trade for the Oilers, and it feels like just such a mind-numbing decision by the Buffalo Sabres. Rudistic, what a deal, Daddy Jeff as GM. Kevin is in 3 more years, ELC. Brilliant. I love that. Nick Bosra says, we just got the next Braden Point. I think that comparable is a very easy way to look at it because of the Moose Jaw connection at the end of their careers, the WHL thing as well. McDoust is in. Chef Jackson keeps cooking. Sergeant Battle, I'm late. What happened? The Oilers have traded Ryan McLeod and Tyler Tullio to the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for 2022 9th overall pick Matthew Savoie, St. Albert, Alberta product. McLeod and Fogle peaked. I like Ryan McLeod. And if we want to talk about that flip side of this deal, again, he was a good Oiler. He was on this team for some good years. You need to have second round picks and later that blossom into legit NHLers. They had that with McLeod, but I'm not sure how much higher Ryan McLeod's ceiling was. I like the player, good defensive third line center, thinks the game well, but I think you all saw the frustrating parts of his game just as much as I did. And there's a reason why he would get healthy scratched in the playoffs. There was a reason why his production would fall off in the playoffs as well. So Scott is in. Savoie is the Oilers' #1 prospect. That's probably more of a statement on the quality of the Oilers' prospects, but he's legit. No, that's a comment on Matt Savoie. Like, we just heard Steven say he's potentially one of the best prospects in all of hockey. Simon, is Carter still on the Oilers? No, he was not qualified by the team during free agency. He is currently a UFA. Adam Burgess, can we have a Sarah McLaughlin, I will remember you tribute to Clowder? I don't think we're going to miss him that much, are we? Like, come on. Again, good Oiler. I liked him. Good guy. Well, he was a good third line center for this team. He moonlit in the top 6 sometimes. That was about it. Gabriella says they traded out basically what they needed to in cap space that is over the cap. Well, let's dig into that a little bit, and then I'll get into a few more of your comments as well. But as things stand following this trade, the Oilers are $341,000 over the NHL salary cap for next season. So that is with, and you'll have to bear with me, I don't have graphics or anything. I'm running this all myself. I don't have a producer, but that is with 12 forwards on the roster and 7 defensemen and 2 goalies. So if they were to start the year and, waive Troy Stetcher, they would have $400,000 in cap space. That's with 12, 6, and 2, basically, the minimum roster. What you could do from that point is just start the season and then put Evander Kane on LTIR. Now, where things get a little dicey in that is you obviously still have to sign Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. What makes that easier is that those two don't have arbitration rights. So you can sign them both, and they don't have the ability to go arbitration. The only leverage they really have is signing a potential offer sheet, which maybe we'll get into a little bit more, say, on Monday. But the only leverage they have is offer sheet. They can't go to arbitration for the Oilers. Think back to remember when Ryan McLeod had to sign not this current deal, but the one before that. It drug right out until like September or whatever. And then McLeod signed a deal for like $775,000. Like, it was enough to just make him affordable. So again, going back to the Oilers roster, if Stetcher goes on waivers and the Oilers have 12, 6, and 2, that includes Josh Brown at $1 million. So if you take Josh Brown's $1 million and say, okay, that's Philip Broberg's $1 million, and then you take Derek Ryan at $900,000, you send him down, and then you use that extra $400,000 you have, tack it on there. That's $1.3 million. Let's even call it, you can go simpler than that, 1.125 for Broberg, 1.125 for Holloway. You waive Brown, you waive Derek Ryan, you are cap compliant on opening day with a roster of 12, 6, and 2. You move Evander Kane to LTIR. You then didn't start the season in LTIR, which I'm led to believe is the right way to do that, or the more advantageous way to approach LTIR. So you do that. Start the year 12-6-2 for the first game or for the first day of the season. Kane goes on LTIR. You call up 2 forwards. You call up a defenseman. You now have the cap space to run with a full roster, and boom, you're good to go. It's a great trade. It's a great trade. I think the path to the Oilers being cap compliant now at the start of next season is clearer than it was a couple of days ago when it was like, okay, they're like 2.4 over. Do they spend to get up to 5 and then do off-season LTIR with Kane, but then activating him gets a little sticky? This is incredibly cut and dry now. You're going to use whatever cap space you have. You're going to go to Holloway and Broberg and say, we don't have any wiggle room. You have no leverage. These are the one-year deals that you're signing. You're going to start the year with 12-6-2. You're going to send down probably all 3 of Stetcher, Ryan, and I mean, actually, if you wanted to create more cap space, you could send down Corey Perry in this kind of configuration as well, since he is making 1.15. So again, right now you are, boy, you guys are getting the full dose of your Remchuk math today. $350K over. But if you send down Perry, that frees up 1.15. And if you send down Stetcher, that frees up 787. So you can, and Brown. So you send down all 3 of those, you free up 2.1, 2.8, right around 2.9 million. That actually gives you 2.6 mil to sign Broberg and Dylan Holloway. So a lot of your Remchuk math going on. But the point is, the Oilers can make the money work somewhat easily here by the start of the season. And then boom, you call everybody up. Kane goes on LTIR, and there you go. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yes, Bag Milk, your Remchuk math. Maybe we'll have BM on the show Monday. We'll get BM's thoughts on the offseason on Owen Everyday on Monday. This is just a quick little hitter here. A bunch of you are already poured into the YouTube though, so I feel bad shutting it down early. So we'll I don't know, we'll keep going we'll keep going with this. Why not? Why not? Brave. Perry would get picked up. Not if Corey Perry pulls the Jason Spezza and says, I'm retiring if anyone claims me. That's always a good way to go around it. Rudistic, do we see Bourgault or Lavoie at all this season? I'll go a step further with this trade. I would have still loved this trade if it was McLeod and Bourgault for Matt Savoie. Like, just from hearing Ellis talk, from what I believe, just the vibes around the player, I like Matt Savoie more than I obviously like Xavier Bourgault. I like him more than I think he will be more impactful than either Bourgault or Lavoie. Will we see either Bourgault or Lavoie next year? If injuries hit, sure. Manchurian, let's talk about how soft McLeod is. Makes it easier to part ways with him in this deal. Captain Felton, how was the golf course this morning? Ty, 7 over on the front, 7 over on the back. So not my best work, 86. So not my worst round of the year, but far from my best round of the year. We'll say that. Matt Welsh, how can we waive Brown without him getting scooped? He 1,000%. Connor Brown 1,000% gets claimed at $1.1 million. Rustoferson. Don't make your YouTube name stuff like that. I don't know if that's maybe your name. I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. Savoie could be some juicy trade bait around the deadline if you need it. Not a chance, man. You have a top 10 pick on an ELC for the next 3 years, and this dude averaged more than 2 points a game in the dub last year, had 5 points in 6 American Hockey League games as a 19-year-old. You are keeping that. You are using that ELC to its full advantage the next 3 seasons here. No shot. No shot. He's just being used as deadline stuff. Buffalo just did an Oilers 2017 trade. I don't get it. Go play perimeter in Buffalo. Yeah. It fleeced Buffalo. They absolutely fleeced the Sabres here. Absolutely fleeced the Sabres here. Lance was in. Is this the most stubble we've ever seen from Tyler Yaremchuk? No, this is just the closest the camera ever is to my face. So you're getting a nice look at it. Although I haven't shaved since the day after Game 7. So you can do your own Yaremchuk math on that to see how slowly I grow facial hair. How Rustoferson, how's that hard to pronounce? I don't know, man. I'm doing it live. Don't make fun of me. Sabres floundering. Win-win trade for both sides from the Hockey Nerd. I mean, I don't know. Buffalo had a glut of young players, but so far this offseason, they have bought out Jeff Skinner and then went and used the cap savings on Jason Zucker, who's older and shittier than Jeff Skinner. And then they traded one of their best forward prospects for a guy who caps out as an 18 to 20 goal third line center. Caps out as an 18 to 20 goal third line center. I don't see that. So I don't know what Buffalo's doing. Graham, Savoie's health is a bit of an issue though, right? I don't know. He's 20. Like I I'm not going to be worried about the health of a 20-year-old. He'll get healthy. I'm not worried about it. Sergeant Battle, what's Buffalo's center depth like? Is Clowder a second liner for them? Well, they got Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins, so I don't think McLeod's ever moving up to the second line. They just got Sam Lafferty. They also have Peyton Krebs and Beck Mallenstein, although they'll be wingers for them next year. So their center depth next season, yeah, they'll go Thompson, Cousins, McLeod, and Lafferty, and that's good center depth. Again, McLeod's the third line center. And then when you look at the Oilers, like, they could afford to make this deal because of what the rest of their center depth is, right? Obviously, McDavid and Draisaitl. You're going to have Adam Henrique to play down the middle. If you wanted to move Nuge down the middle, you could. But I'll throw you the little curveball into this thing. I think Lane Peterson and or Noah Philp, one of those two is going to be the Oilers' fourth line center. If they're not the fourth line center on opening day, then they're going to be the fourth line center by the new year. I'm high enough on each of those guys. I think the organization is high enough on each of those guys. One of Lane Peterson or Noah Philp will be a full-time Oiler by next season, and they'll slot in wonderfully as the fourth line center, and they'll take over for Derek Ryan whenever they need to, and that'll be that. The Oilers center depth is remarkably solid, and they got enough guys that can move around. We saw Janmark play a bit of center. You don't want to do that, obviously, but you can slide Janmark to center in a 3-4 game stretch and be like, whatever, he'll play fourth line center for us. You can move Nuge to center if one of the top three gets hurt. You can do that. They've experimented with Dylan Holloway at center in the past. Like, the Oilers have enough versatile pieces that, again, if a prospect like Matt Savoie is available, you go and give Buffalo these pieces if this is what they want, man. It's a very, very good trade. Yeah, simple. Okay, I think I'm honestly going to wrap this up. God, there's 900 of you watching though on the YouTube. I feel like I don't want to. I feel like I don't want to wrap this up because we're having fun. Bagged milk. Jeff Jackson made it move. You know what I mean. Sergeant Battle. We could trade for Crosby at the trade deadline. Plenty of options for 4C. Love that line of thinking, big guy. I absolutely love it. Frank Saravalli. What did Frank say? Oilers and Sabres started talking about this deal last Friday, round one at the draft, and kept dialogue going. Interesting deal. McLeod has speed, fits in with Buffalo's building. Some think Savoie, an Edmonton native, may already be as good as McLeod. There you go. Simple as that. Get Frank on the show? No, he's at his beach house. Well, it's a couple of minutes from the beach. Bagged milk. If you want me to keep going, BM, you have to hop on. I'll send you the link. I'll send BM the link, and if he wants to join, he can join. And then we'll do a couple minutes with BM, and then we'll wrap this thing up. All right. You got to bear with me. I got to send an email. ONE link. You guys are really getting a raw stream here. Pause. All right. Captain Felton, do it. Stacy, 900 watching, only 84 likes. Mr. Burns, he's a right shot too. I love it. I agree with that. I do love it. I think that slots in, again, relatively nice with the Oilers depth chart there. What do we got? Right side, Hyman, Arvidsson, Perry, Brown. Oh, give me Matt Savoie on the right side of a third line that's got Dylan Holloway and Adam Henrique. That sounds nice. I like the sounds of that. And then you run Draisaitl, Nuge, and Arvidsson, Skinner, McDavid, Hyman. Best forward group in the league. Ooh, it's the best forward group in the league. And that's without Matt Savoie. Like, I'm like giddy talking about how good this team could be next season. You want me to play the hits? You want me to say if next offseason is anything but remarkably boring, something's gone terribly wrong? I don't even believe that, honestly, because I think the Oilers might win the Western Conference. The team that wins the offseason rarely ever goes on and does great things in the next regular season, but the Oilers have just added this perfect group of complementary pieces to the team that they already have. It's going to be, for whoever comes in as the new GM, it's going to be like, all right, they'll get hired in like 3 weeks. Cool. Or maybe Jeff Jackson's like, actually, I'm really good at this. I'm just going to do it full time now. But anyways, whoever comes in as the new GM, they'll have to like sign the Draisaitl extension that Jeff Jackson's probably already almost finished with. And then they'll have 4 to 5 months to find a top 4 defenseman. It's as simple as that. All right, let's cruise along here. I have no idea if BM even said he could join, but I just assumed that since he's in the chat, he would want to join. And he was saying more Tyler. So, Sergeant Battle. Why would Buffalo give up Savoie? Well, Ellis kind of said, again, they have a glut of young prospects that are ready to come up to the NHL, a glut of young forwards. Maybe they wanted someone a little bit more experienced like McLeod to play down the middle. Maybe they didn't feel like there was room for Savoie to properly develop up into the top 6. And then that's how you come to this sort of a deal. But I don't get it from Buffalo's perspective. Like, again, you can wait until these guys, like, would you have gotten less for Matt Savoie if you put him in Rochester to start the year? Again, he had 5 points in 6 games as a 19-year-old. If you threw him in Rochester and he had 48 points in his first 35 games down there, and then all of a sudden, what? You think you're getting less than Ryan McLeod for him? It doesn't make a ton of sense. All right, we're wrapping up the show with a little appearance from our boy BM. BM, well, your first thoughts on this trade?
I don't get it from Buffalo's perspective. Like, when has it ever been a problem to have too many skilled prospects in your system? Like, I was watching Ellis, and I'm reading the article that he wrote for Oilersnation that's going to go up here in a little bit, and we're talking about a guy who's considered to be a top 10 prospect across the NHL. It doesn't make sense to me, and I like Ryan McLeod. He's my favorite Cloud since the Cumulus, but like ultimately, we need players that can contribute on cheaper deals. And I think, Tyler, you nailed it. He's a third-line center, and he's effective at both ends of the rink. But if you're talking about pure skill and ability to finish, Matt Savoie's got the opportunity to do a lot of that on a very cheap contract. The Oilers need more of that. Man, Jeff Jackson cooking.
Yeah. Epiphany. Remember, trades are two-way. We are selling, but we're buying too. Maybe Buffalo was told who the Oilers wanted. And yeah, maybe Buffalo was just dying for a third-line center, and this is Jeff Jackson. Because Frank says they started talking at the draft. Maybe this was something where Buffalo came to the Oilers at the draft, said, hey, we want Ryan McLeod. What can we do to make this work? And Edmonton held strong on, you're giving us Matt Savoie if we're getting this deal done. And it just took Buffalo till July 5th to kind of gulp and say, okay, fine. We're going to make this trade happen. So it is quite the stunner. I do believe Matt Savoie is currently in town right now playing in the Humboldt Broncos Memorial Tournament out in St. Albert this weekend. I think he's playing in that. Don't quote me. But anyways, he's in town right now playing hockey. But anyways, second part of this, like, I know we have people saying like, oh, tribute for McLeod. We're going to miss McLeod. BM, I don't know if I'm being rude. I'm going to miss him maybe a little bit, but not a lot. Like, again, he never had a big playoff moment for this team. Like, I guess he scored 1 goal in that series against Dallas. That was kind of cool, but like, I don't know. I'm more excited than I am bummed about this deal.
It's one of those ones where, listen, I think that Ryan McLeod was a really good player for what he was, but at $2.1 million, you've got a guy who scored 12 goals and 30 points in 81 games and 4 in the playoffs. And there was times when people were calling for him to be healthy scratched. There were times when he was playing too much on the perimeter. Like, as soon as this trade went through, I'm getting texts from Jay about how, first of all, McLeod gone. Second, Moose Jaw Warrior coming in. And at Nation HQ, it doesn't get better than that. Now, it's not to say that McLeod's a bad player. I really liked him as a player, but the Oilers needed to find ways to get contributions on cheaper deals than this. And the player they got is known for ripping the puck. He is a fantastic prospect. So this feels very much like a trade that we used to be on the other side of all the time, where we're getting the best prospect and not really having to give up too much off the roster. Yes, McLeod was an everyday player, and he will be for Buffalo too. But given what Jeff Jackson's already done in free agency, like, the hole's already filled. You went through some of the possible line combinations, and that's just scratching the surface on what the Oilers might be able to do with the players they have available in their top 9. You could run back the best third line from the Stanley Cup final in Rico Brownmark, and you don't even notice that McLeod's not there anymore. So it just seems like the Oilers are going all in, but they're also thinking about the future, which is just a wild situation to be in right now. And it's fun to watch. For a guy who says he didn't want to be the GM, Jeff Jackson is spanking the league's bum en masse, and I'm here for it. The job search is over. Just give him the reins.
Well, that too. Like, again, Jeff, why don't you want to be the GM, man? Like, just take it over. You're doing like nothing but wins, except for like, you can nitpick the Corey Perry signing, and I did, and I didn't like it at the time. But when I look at everything else he's been able to do, I have absolutely no complaints about this offseason. This is a like firmly stamped A+ grade for Jeff Jackson so far this offseason. And also the thing, like when you're in the mode the Oilers are in and you aren't going to have first round picks, every first round pick, I guess they picked that kid 32nd this year, Sam O'Reilly or whatever. But like every first round pick, even every second round pick going forward is basically deadline currency to go out and not sacrifice any sort of future asset and add in a young guy who can now, I think, become an important piece of your core for the next 3 years while he's on his ELC and then beyond that as well. It's such a smart little piece of business because you're right. You didn't need Ryan McLeod. He's your fourth line center with Adam Henrique signed. That is not to be rude to Ryan McLeod, that is to an extent a spare part for the Oilers. And you turned it into a guy who's a top 10, top 5 prospect in the entire NHL. It really is quite something. And I think we're going to see him play games next year. And you know what's nice? Remember when we sat last year and we're like, God, how does Dallas just pull these guys up from the minors who become great impact players right out of the gates? It's the middle of the season. They got Logan Stankoven. Like, we're going to have that now here in Edmonton. And that is a good feeling as a contending team to know that there's another wave coming yet.
Yeah, and it's so important for a team in their cup window like the Oilers are to have people contributing on deals that are cheap. And like you said off the jump on this broadcast, this is 3 more years on an ELC. And I'm sure there's bonuses and stuff in there that are attached to a top 10 prospect like Savoie, but he is going to be a contributor on this team. Yep. Whether that happens in limited minutes this year, or if you read Ellis's piece, that's going to be going up here right away at Oilersnation.com. It's a guy who, if not this year, next year is going to be knocking the door down, and he's going to be doing it for very little money. The Oilers don't have a lot of skilled prospects like that on their depth chart. He is instantly the best prospect they have. He is going to be a guy who is going to contribute, probably with the Condors to start, but definitely with the Oilers down the line. And this is just a fantastic piece of business. I'm still kind of pinching myself that this week has even happened. I'm expecting to wake up and all we signed was, like Connor Brown's back, but it's for another $3 million deal. And Matthias Janmark's here for $4 million or something crazy like that, because that's what Oilers fans have been used to forever. We are so far from the days of Ben Eager, Darcy Hordichuk, and Eric Belanger being a big free agency week for this franchise. It is just stunning to watch what Jeff Jackson's been able to do. And obviously, as Frank Saravalli would say, winning is the best deodorant. And when you go to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, you're going to have more opportunity to bring guys in. But trades like this don't just happen. And that's why it's so remarkable that the Oilers were able to pull this off. I still don't understand it from Buffalo's perspective, even though they have plenty of solid prospects. I just don't get it from their side.
It feels like they're sitting there and they're like, God, we have all these $100 bills in our wallet. We should trade one for a 50 just to mix it up a little bit. We got too many. Oilers forward group next season: Skinner, McDavid, Hyman, Nuge, Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Holloway. Then it could be Holloway, Henrique, and Savoie, and then a fourth line that's like either Peterson and Philp with Janmark and Brown. I mean, you can cut and dice this thing however you want. It's going to be the best offense in the NHL next season, and I have a feeling it might not even be close. This team could be a wagon next year, and thank God this offseason is short. I didn't think I'd be saying that because I am very, very excited to watch this team play next year. BM, thank you for hopping on and doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for jumping on, because I was so excited. I'm here at Nation HQ and there's no one here. I'm just sitting here by myself and I'm just running back and forth yelling to no one. So I'm glad we were able to do something, because I was like, Oilers Nation Radio should be recording right now, but everybody's got the day off. And I'm excited you went live because we needed somebody to yell about what just happened.
Yeah, it is quite something. Oilers Nation Radio will return next week on Friday, Monday, Owen Everyday, and Real Life. BM, we'll chat with you then.
Later.
There you go. BM away into the Friday afternoon. I didn't think that I was going to go for this long, and my laptop's almost dead. So probably got to wrap this bad boy up. But shout out to our friends at Sherwood for the Giant and Sherwood Power Sports and Marine for making today's emergency episode possible. Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, everything you need to get into summer mode, whether it's boating, whether it's fishing, whether it's e-bikes and e-scooters. They got it all covered out at their new spot in Sherwood Park. Our boy Colby Cohn, shout out to our friends at Betway. 19 plus, please play responsibly. You can get a free bet worth up to $200. All you need to do is head to Betway now. He says just put $1,000 on Edmonton futures. Not sure how they don't win next year. The excitement is growing. The Oilers are a wagon. They will open the season undoubtedly as the Stanley Cup favorites, and we will go from there. Appreciate all you guys who hopped into the chat. If you are new and you have never been in this chat before and you've never seen the show before, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Remember, you can also go out and listen to the show in podcast form this summer. Every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday, we will be live at noon Mountain Time. That's a wrap on a little special edition of Oilers Nation Everyday, brought to you by Sherwood Ford the Giant and Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. I will chat with you all once again on Monday.
Thank you for watching Oilers Nation Everyday. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit OilersNation.com.